My name's Olivia, and I still don't know if what happened to me was a dream, a trap, or a hallucination, maybe all three. What I do know is that if you ever get invited to a private island party by a guy who seems too nice, don't go. It started with spring break, of course. I was in my junior year at a college in Georgia, and after 2 straight semesters of heavy coursework and pre-med labs, I just wanted to get out of town. Somewhere warm, somewhere that made me forget how much I hated my life at the moment. My best friend Tasha suggested the Bahamas. Flights were cheap, and she knew a girl who owned a timeshare in Nassau that was empty that week. We were a group of 4. Me, Tasha, our quiet friend Madison, and Bree, who we barely knew but tagged along because she was friends with Tasha's cousin. We got there on a Tuesday. The air was hot and heavy with salt and sweat. The timeshare wasn't beachfront or fancy, but it had a working shower and a balcony. That night, we went out to a beach bar that was packed with college students from all over. Some from the States, some from Canada, some maybe even locals. It was chaotic and loud, the way spring break bars always are, with cheap rum punches and dance hall music that made the sand vibrate beneath your feet. And that's when I met Aaron. Tall, blonde, barefoot. He had this breezy, confident vibe, like someone who always knew people were watching him. He wasn't pushy or sleazy, which honestly made him stand out. He bought me a drink, didn't make a move, and mostly just talked about the island, about how he'd been coming here for years, about his godfather, who apparently owned a private island just 15 minutes away by boat. "You girls should come," he said. "This Saturday, my buddy's throwing a party. Way better than these cramped tourist bars. Big open house right on the ocean. Pool, DJ, free drinks, no creeps. Just us and a couple of friends." He flashed a white smile. Tasha was already nodding. Looking back, I should have questioned more. Why us? Why was he inviting 4 random girls he'd just met? But back then, the idea of a private island party sounded like a dream. I told myself it was just networking or lucky chance. He gave me a number to text for the boat details. Said we'd be picked up at a private dock near the edge of the island. Told us to pack light, bring swimsuits, maybe a change of clothes for evening. "You'll love it," he promised, then added, "and don't be late. The tide makes it hard to get back after dark." That should have been red flag number 1. Saturday came. We wore our best swimsuits under casual cover-ups and packed a small beach bag each. When we got to the dock, a man in a collared shirt and boat shoes greeted us. He wasn't Aaron, but said Aaron was already on the island setting things up. "You ladies ready for paradise?" he joked and helped us onto the boat. The ride took about 20 minutes, not 15. The sun was bright and the boat cut through aquamarine waters, so clear you could see fish darting beneath the surface. I almost forgot to be nervous, but then we saw the island. It wasn't big, probably just a few acres, but it was beautiful. Palm trees swayed above a clean white beach. In the center, nestled among the trees, was a sprawling modern house with huge glass windows and what looked like an infinity pool out back. It was all so perfect, it almost felt fake. We were the only ones on the boat, and when we stepped onto the dock, there were no signs of other guests, no music, no voices. Just the sound of waves and birds and the distant hum of the boat pulling away. "This is the place?" Bree asked, glancing around. Before we could debate, a man came out of the house, It wasn't Aaron. It was someone older, maybe mid-30s. He was attractive in a magazine model kind of way, with sharp features and perfect posture. He smiled like he'd been waiting for us. "Welcome," he said smoothly. "I'm Darren. Aaron's inside, getting drinks ready. Come on up." Tasha led the way. Madison hesitated, but I tugged her arm. "We're already here," I whispered. "It's probably fine." Inside, the house was stunning. Marble floors, minimalist furniture. The back wall opened onto the ocean like something out of Architectural Digest. Aaron came out of the kitchen, holding a tray of cocktails, pink, icy, and garnished with mint. "You made it," he said. "Try the hibiscus daiquiris. They're insane." We took the drinks. I only drank half, and maybe that's the only reason I got out. After 15 minutes, Bree started acting weird. She kept blinking, like her vision was going in and out, and asked if she could lie down. Aaron told us she probably had a bit too much sun. "Room's upstairs," he said. "Pick anyone. This place is huge." Tasha went with Bree. Madison sat on the couch and just stared out the window. I felt a pressure building behind my eyes, like a migraine, but heavy and hot. Something was wrong. I set my drink down and walked toward the bathroom, then paused in the hallway. There were no family photos, no clutter, no books. It was sterile, like no one actually lived there. That's when I saw Darren again. He was coming out of a room, whispering something into a phone. When he saw me, he smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes this time. "Feeling okay?" he asked. I nodded, but my pulse was racing. "Where are the others?" I asked. He tilted his head. "Upstairs." I turned and bolted, up the staircase, calling for Tasha and Bree. No answer. I opened a door and found an empty room. Then another. Then I opened the third room and froze. Bree was on the bed, fully clothed, but limp. Her arm dangled off the side. Tasha was on the floor, trying to lift herself, but barely conscious. Her mouth was moving, but no words came out. That's when I heard the footsteps behind me. I didn't look. I just ran. I sprinted down the stairs and out the back door, straight through the open patio and into the trees. I heard someone shout, maybe Aaron, maybe Darren. I didn't care. I just kept running until the house disappeared behind palms and ferns. I reached the far edge of the island where there was nothing but rocks and water. No boats, no phone signal. Just the horizon and the crashing surf. I thought I was trapped. Until I saw it. A small weathered kayak half buried behind a bush, probably used by maintenance staff or locals. I dragged it out, shoved it into the water, and paddled with my bare hands. My arms burned. My head throbbed. But I didn't stop until I saw a small fishing boat far in the distance. I screamed, waved, screamed again. They saw me. I told the local police. They brought me to a station where I filed a report. By the time they got to the island, the house was empty. No sign of Darren, no Aaron, no Tasha, no Bree, no Madison, not even a trace. No evidence of the party. No drinks. No personal belongings. It was like the house had never been used. The house itself, still owned by a shell company registered in Belize. No way to trace it. No way to press charges. The officer gently told me These kinds of things happen sometimes. Tourists go missing, boats capsize, people party too hard and disappear. I flew home the next morning. I never saw my friends again. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I still see Aaron's smile. And I wonder if he's smiling at someone else now. Some people love their birthdays. The attention, the balloons, the cake. For most, it's a celebration. For me, it's a warning. I stopped celebrating mine when I turned 18. I haven't had a cake since. Haven't made a wish. Haven't even said the word birthday out loud in years. Not after what happened. Not after what kept happening. It wasn't always like this. There was a time when birthdays meant something simple, something innocent, but that was before he showed up. Before the man with the crooked smile started following me through the years. I was 6. My parents threw me a party at a bowling alley just outside of town. Not the nice kind, with laser lights and dance music. This place was old. It smelled like warm rubber and cheap cheese. The carpet was that wild neon swirl design that tried to distract you from how sticky it was. I was wearing a glittery party dress and a plastic tiara that made my scalp itch. There were balloons, cake, even a clown. I remember giggling, chasing my friends around the ball return. At some point, I wandered off. I don't remember why. Maybe to find the bathroom, maybe just to be alone for a second. I walked down this narrow hallway behind the lanes, dimly lit, with old movie posters peeling off the walls. That's where I saw him. A man, leaning against the door marked "Employees Only." He looked out of place. No bowling shirt, no name tag. Just a dirty white t-shirt and jeans. He had a beard that looked like it hadn't been trimmed in weeks. But what I remember most was his smile, like he was trying too hard to look friendly. And it made it worse. He said my name, first and last. I stopped. I was 6. I didn't even know how to react. Then he crouched a little, like he was talking to a scared dog, and said, "Your mom asked me to bring you to the car. She's waiting out front." Something in my chest turned to stone. My mom wouldn't do that. She always parked around the side, and she never let strangers near me. I didn't say a word. I just backed up. He stood up straight and took a step forward. "It's okay," he said. "I know your dad too. He told me to tell you go with Mr. Danny." Mr. Danny. That name doesn't belong to anyone we knew. It still makes my stomach knot. I ran. I didn't scream, didn't cry. I just sprinted back to the party room barefoot, socks slipping on the tile. I slammed into the door so hard the hinges groaned. My mom was the first to reach me. I clung to her like I was drowning, sobbing, trying to explain. The police were called, but the man was gone. No cameras, no witnesses. Just the echo of my name in that hallway, and a stranger no one else had seen. That night, my mom sat with me and made me memorize things. Our address, phone number, and a new rule. Never, ever go with someone unless they knew the code word. The code word was Sunbeam. It sounded silly at the time, but it stuck. I wish I could say that was the end. But the truth is, it was just the beginning. 6 years later, I was 12. Middle school awkward and too old for pony rides, too young for sleepovers with boys. I'd gone to the mall with my aunt for my birthday. Just the two of us. Lunch at the food court and a trip to Claire's for clip-on earrings. While she tried on shoes, I wandered to the bookstore next door. That's when I felt it. That crawling sensation on the back of your neck. Like someone's watching you from just behind your shoulder. I turned, and there he was. Older maybe. Same crooked smile. Same eyes that didn't blink enough. Holding a wrapped gift box with a shiny bow. He didn't speak. Just extended the box toward me with both hands. I backed away. I asked, "Who are you?" He whispered, "You forgot me again." I ran. This time I screamed. Shoppers turned. A security guard came. But by the time they checked, he was gone. Inside the box, a photo of me at 6 at that bowling alley. I was mid-laugh, frosting on my face. He was in the background, standing in the shadows, watching. By 17, I'd convinced myself it was over. Years had passed. Maybe it was just a one-off obsession. Maybe he was in jail, or dead, or just gone. That year I threw a party in our backyard. Small. A few friends. Music, snacks, a fire pit. We lived outside the city by then, backed up against forest. No neighbors for miles. It felt safe, until it didn't. Amanda, one of my oldest friends, tapped me on the arm. "Hey, who's that guy?" I turned. There was someone standing near the tree line. Hoodie pulled up, hands in pockets. Watching. My heart dropped. He didn't move. Didn't talk to anyone. Just stared. At me. We approached. Amanda asked, "Who are you here with?" The man tilted his head. Then softly he said, "Still no memory of me?" I froze. Amanda whispered, "Is this a joke?" He turned and walked into the woods without another word. We never saw him again that night. But the next morning, I found something nailed to a tree near the fire pit. Another photo. Me, age 12, in the mall, holding the gift box. This time, written on the back, 17 candles, still so forgetful. I stopped throwing parties, stopped telling anyone when my birthday was. I even changed it on social media. But the year I turned 22, my friends surprised me with a weekend trip. An Airbnb cabin in the mountains, off-grid, no signal. I tried not to let the anxiety show, tried to smile, tried to believe it would be different this time. The first night was perfect. Drinks, board games, bad horror movies. The second night, the power went out. We figured it was a fuse. Old cabin, bad wiring. Until we found the Polaroid on the kitchen counter. Fresh, still developing. All of us were in the frame, sitting at the dinner table. But the photo wasn't taken from inside. It was taken through the window. From the dark. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the corner with a knife, shaking. He never showed himself, but I knew he'd been there. Watching, always watching. I'm 28 now. I live alone. No pets, no roommates. I've moved 6 times. Changed my number. Deleted every trace of my birthday online. Last year, I took the day off work, stayed inside, didn't tell a soul. But when I went to check the mailbox the next morning, there was an envelope. No return address. Just my name, written in shaky cursive. Inside was a card. On the front, a cartoon cake. Inside, another photo. Me, sleeping, taken from inside my bedroom. The message written underneath: next year, I'll blow out the candles for you. I bought cameras, installed alarms, bought pepper spray and a taser. Paranoia became my religion. 2 nights ago, I got an email. No sender, just a subject line: happy early birthday. It had a single attachment, a video. I clicked it. It was security footage from my own living room, time-stamped the night before. It showed me asleep on the couch, and him standing behind me for 13 full minutes, just standing, smiling, not moving. Then he leaned forward, whispered something into my ear, and walked out of frame. I couldn't hear what he said. I played it again and again. Finally, I got it. Sunbeam. The code word. The one I never told anyone. I don't know who he is. I don't know why me. I don't know what he wants. But I know this. He's still out there. Somewhere. Watching. And in 3 days, I turned 29. I haven't told anyone. Haven't planned anything. But I can feel it. That pressure behind my eyes. That weight in my chest. He's coming. I don't know if I'll survive this time. But if you're hearing this, if someone finds this story, please, don't celebrate your birthday alone, and never trust a man with a crooked smile. I travel alone, not always by choice, but over the years, I've learned to enjoy the solitude. My friends are either too tied up with their lives or simply can't afford to hop on a plane at a moment's notice like I can. So more often than not, it's just me and my suitcase, hopping from city to city, hotel to hotel. It was late fall when I booked a spontaneous trip to Portland. I'd never been, and I had a few vacation days saved up. A quick search landed me a great deal at a boutique hotel in the city's Pearl District. It wasn't a chain, but the pictures looked stylish, clean, and safe. I figured, why not? The flight was uneventful, and I landed just before dusk. The air was crisp, with that signature Pacific Northwest dampness lingering in the breeze. I caught a cab to the hotel, the Marlowe, a 4-story brick building tucked between a coffee shop and a bookstore. It looked charming enough, with string lights twinkling above the entrance and a small fire pit crackling near the lobby. The check-in process was smooth, handled by a quiet man in his 30s with wire-rimmed glasses. He handed me a key card and told me my room was on the 2nd floor, room 217. As I was grabbing my bag to head to the elevator, I heard a voice behind me. First time in Portland? I turned. A tall man, maybe mid-40s, stood behind me with a relaxed smile. He wore a dark green jacket and carried a small backpack. Something about him was nondescript. You know those people who are hard to describe afterward? Like your brain just doesn't record the details? He was like that. Yeah, I said. Just a short trip. He smiled wider. You'll love it. Best coffee and the weirdest bookstores you'll ever find. I laughed politely. He asked if I needed help with my bag. Said he was heading up anyway. I hesitated for a split second, but then I thought, hey, he's just being nice. And it's a small bag. I could still manage it myself if I had to. Sure, I said. Thanks. We rode the elevator in silence, though I noticed him glancing at the room numbers as we passed each door in the hallway. When we reached 217, he set my bag down and smiled. Well, enjoy your stay. Thanks, I said. He turned and walked off without looking back. I didn't even get his name. I let myself into the room. It was cozy, dimly lit with deep green walls, minimalist decor, a queen-sized bed, and a large window looking out at the street below. The bathroom was pristine, stocked with organic soaps and fluffy towels. I tossed my bag on the bed and laid down for a moment. I must have dozed off because when I woke up, it was dark. My phone buzzed with a reminder for a dinner reservation I made earlier. I freshened up and headed down to the lobby. A different person was working the desk now, an older woman with silver hair and sharp eyes. As I walked past her, she called out to me, "Excuse me, ma'am?" I turned. "That man you were talking to earlier. Do you know him?" "Not really," I said. "He just helped me with my bag." Her expression darkened slightly. "He doesn't stay here," she said. "I've seen him hanging around outside a few times. Never check in. Just be careful, all right?" A chill ran through me. I nodded slowly and thanked her. Dinner was great. I tried to shake off the unease and explore the city a bit, but the whole time, I kept thinking about what the woman at the desk said. Something gnawed at the edges of my comfort, an unease I couldn't brush off. After dinner, I took a walk through a local art installation that was illuminated with lanterns and soft music. But even in that crowd, I felt eyes watching. Back at the hotel later that night, the lobby was empty. I rode the elevator alone and made it to my room without issue. I took a shower and changed into some comfortable clothes. Just as I was about to lay down and unwind, there was a knock at the door, followed by a soft voice, "Housekeeping." My brow furrowed. It was almost 10 p.m. Housekeeping? At this hour? I looked through the peephole. No one. Just the dimly lit hallway. I didn't open the door. I stood there, frozen, my heart starting to thud a little harder. After about a minute of silence, I called the front desk. "Hi, I just had someone knock and say they were housekeeping. Did you send it to anyone?" There was a pause. "No," the woman said. "No one should be on your floor right now." "I think someone's pretending to be housekeeping," I whispered. "I'm kind of scared." "I'll send security up right away," she said. About 5 minutes later, there was another knock, firmer this time. "Hotel staff," a woman called out. I looked through the peephole again. A woman in a uniform, holding a walkie-talkie. I opened the door and explained what happened. She nodded seriously, then offered to check the hallway and stairwell. She came back a minute later. Nothing. I thanked her and double-locked the door behind me. But I couldn't relax. I turned every light on in the room and closed the blackout curtains. I sat in bed with my phone clutched in my hand. At some point, I texted a friend. "Hey, if something weird happens to me, I'm at the Marlowe in Portland, room 217. It was half a joke, but only half. I tried to sleep, but every creak, every shadow outside the window set my nerves on edge. I pulled the desk chair under the door handle just in case. Not that it would stop someone determined, but it gave me some comfort. Eventually, I drifted off. The TV played quietly in the background, casting flickering light on the walls. I remember having some weird dream, something about being chased through an empty hotel. I was running, but all the hallways looped back on themselves. I was screaming, but no one was there. Every time I thought I'd found an exit, it was another hallway, another room, room 217. In the dream, I opened the door to 217 and found it wrong. The furniture melted, the walls breathing. There were eyes in the wallpaper, watching. following. Then a voice whispered, "He never left." Then a sound. A click. A door opening. It blended into the dream at first, but then my body snapped awake. I wasn't dreaming anymore. The door to the room had opened. I couldn't move. Not out of fear. My body literally wouldn't respond. I was in sleep paralysis. I could see. I could hear, but I couldn't scream or flinch. I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate. Then a soft humming, like someone trying to calm themselves. Out of tune. Wrong. Then the mattress shifted. Someone was getting onto the bed. I was facing the wall. My breath quickened as I heard a whisper, inches from my ear. "You should have opened the door." That broke the paralysis. I whipped around and saw him. The man from earlier, wearing a black balaclava and that same green jacket. He lunged at me, one hand going for my mouth, the other trying to pin my arms down. I screamed, kicked, bit, fought like hell. He growled and tried to overpower me, but I managed to roll off the bed and crash into the nightstand, knocking over a lamp. I scrambled for the door just as someone began pounding on it from the outside. "Is everything okay in there?" The man bolted, shoving past me, unlocking the door and barreling into the woman outside. I heard her scream as he vanished down the hall. She stumbled in, wide-eyed. "Oh my God, are you okay?" I nodded, shaking violently, unable to speak. My mouth opened, but only a choked sob came out. The next hour was a blur. Security, hotel management, the police. He had a master keycard. Stolen. Maybe cloned. They didn't know how, but the front desk confirmed. No one, by his description, had ever checked in. The hallway cameras were grainy, but you could see his shape, his clothing, the way he stood by the elevators pretending to be a guest. Always watching, always waiting. And in one frame, he was watching me. I was moved to a new room. They comped the stay, apologized profusely, but I couldn't sleep that night. I sat in the armchair by the window, holding a makeshift weapon made of a coat hanger and a pen. And I watched, just in case he came back. I didn't press charges. I just wanted to get home. But when I boarded the plane the next morning, I kept scanning the crowd. Every man with a green jacket made my skin crawl. Even now, back in my apartment, I still lock every window, every closet. I don't sleep with earbuds in anymore. I bought a security camera. 2, actually. One faces my door, the other, my bedroom. And sometimes, when I dream, it's not my room I wake up in. It's 217. Because the scariest part? He didn't take anything. He didn't want my wallet or my phone. He wanted me. And maybe he still does. I've always hated moving. The boxes, the dust, the stale scent of someone else's life lingering in the corners. But this time felt different. It wasn't just stress. It was dread. I didn't know why at the time. The place was perfect on paper. Quiet neighborhood, cheap rent. An older house, sure, but charming in that vintage bones kind of way. I signed the lease without much thought. I needed a reset. Somewhere new. Somewhere no one knew my name. The day I moved in was overcast. The sky hung low, like a wet blanket draped over the town. The previous tenant had left in a hurry, apparently. The landlord said she just up and vanished one night, left behind dishes in the sink, clothes in the dryer, even food in the fridge. I thought that was strange, but I chalked it up to a bad breakup or family emergency. The first night was quiet, eerily so. No city hum, no neighbors arguing, no traffic. Just silence. The kind that presses in on you until you hear your own heartbeat echo in your ears. I fell asleep to the faint sound of wind scraping tree branches against the siding. But sometime around 3 a.m., I woke up to what I thought was a voice. I sat up, listened, nothing. Maybe I'd been dreaming. But then it came again. Low, muffled, a whisper, too faint to understand. I froze. It was coming from the wall behind my bed. I leaned in, nothing, just stillness. By morning, I had convinced myself it was just the house settling. Old homes creak, right? The second night, it happened again. Only this time, it wasn't a whisper. It was breathing. Long, slow, deliberate. Like someone was just on the other side of the wall. I pushed my ear against it. The drywall was cool and smooth, but beneath it, just past the plaster and studs, there was movement. I could hear it. Shuffling, like fabric against wood. I slept on the couch that night. Or tried to. The third night is when everything changed. I decided to investigate. Maybe an animal got trapped in the walls. A raccoon or something. I grabbed a flashlight and checked the crawl space, the attic, even the basement. Nothing. But as I was crawling back out from under the house, I noticed something strange. There was a vent on the side of the house that looked tampered with. The screws were loose, and the cover was hanging by a single corner. I pulled it off and shined the light inside. My breath caught. There was a piece of cloth snagged on a nail just inside the vent. It looked like a sleeve, faded, red. I reached in and tugged. It didn't budge. I felt further. The fabric was attached to something solid, something that moved. I yanked my hand back and scrambled away. I called the landlord the next day, told him something was wrong with the vents. He laughed it off, said the ducts were too narrow for anything larger than a rat. But there was something in there. I knew it. That night I stayed awake, lying perfectly still in bed, flashlight in hand, eyes fixed on the vent across the room. Just after midnight, I heard it. The whispering. This time, it was clearer. I'm still here. I bolted upright. The voice wasn't coming from the vent. It was coming from inside the wall. My hands were shaking. I grabbed the flashlight and walked slowly toward the sound. As I got closer, the whispering stopped. Silence again. But then, something scratched the inside of the wall. Long, drawn-out scrapes. I pressed my hand against it. Warm. The wall was warm. I backed away and called the police. Told them someone was in my house, maybe living in the walls. They arrived in 10 minutes, searched the place top to bottom. Found nothing. One of the officers even laughed when I showed him the vent, said I'd been watching too many horror movies. They left. I didn't sleep at all. The next morning, I decided I was done. I started packing, throwing things into boxes without folding or sorting. I didn't care. I just wanted out. I even called a friend to see if I could crash on their couch until I found something new. That's when I noticed it. In the hallway, outside the bedroom door, there were smudges on the wall. Greasy handprints, small, too small to be an adult's. They trailed along the baseboard, right up to the closet door. I opened the closet slowly. Empty, except for one thing. A hole in the back wall, about the size of a dinner plate. I hadn't noticed it before. It was hidden behind some hanging coats. I bent down and looked inside. Darkness, but the air coming from it was warm and smelled off, like mildew and something else, something rotting. That's when I heard it. A giggle, high-pitched, childlike, but wrong, too distorted, too hollow. I slammed the closet shut. I didn't sleep. Again, that night the sounds came back with a vengeance. Whispering, breathing, giggles, and footsteps. Soft, slow footsteps running from one end of the house to the other. But every time I turned on a light, there was nothing, just shadows. Then came the knocking. From inside the walls. 3 knocks, slow, deliberate. Then silence. Then again. I screamed, begged whatever it was to stop, to leave me alone. And then it answered. I can't. I packed everything I could fit into my car and left that night. Didn't lock the door. Didn't look back. I drove to my friend's place and crashed on their couch for a week. But the nightmares followed me. Every night, I'd wake up at 3:07 a.m. to the sound of knocking. 3 knocks. Always 3. I even recorded myself sleeping. On the 3rd night, the camera caught something. At exactly 3:07, the room temperature dropped by 10 degrees. The audio picked up static. Then a voice. I'm still here. I went back to the house one last time. I needed answers. I broke the lease. Told the landlord I didn't care about the deposit. But before I left for good, I called a contractor. Told him I thought there was an animal living in the walls and I needed a section opened up. He agreed. Showed up the next day with tools in hand. He cut into the wall behind the closet. And there it was. A small hollowed out crawl space. Inside, we found a mattress. Moldy and soaked with something dark. Empty food cans, broken toys, and a notebook. Inside the notebook were drawings, dozens of them. Crude stick figures. One figure was always alone, always in red, surrounded by black scribbles. And next to the drawings, dates, dozens of them, going back years. The last page had a message written in shaky handwriting. Don't leave me. I'm still here. The contractor called the cops. They ran the notebook for prints and came back with a name. Jamie Collins, a boy who had gone missing 12 years earlier, reportedly vanished from a foster home just 2 blocks away. They think someone hid him in that house for years, until one day he just disappeared again. No body was ever found. No suspects. Just vanished. The landlord claimed he didn't know. Said the house had gone unrented for a while and Jamie must have slipped through the cracks. But here's the thing. I know he's still there. Not alive. But there. Some nights when I drive past that part of town, I feel it. The cold, the weight of eyes watching me. And sometimes, when I close my eyes and everything is quiet, I hear it again. 3 knocks. Then a whisper. I'm still here. I've always loved the idea of solitude in the woods. A chance to unplug from everything, to breathe, to think. That's why, when my old college buddy Sam called me one weekend and said he'd found the perfect spot to get away, I didn't hesitate. He'd rented a cabin deep in the Blue Ridge Mountains, a place he'd found online. It looked rustic but solid, surrounded by thick woods, with a single dirt road winding down to it. The pictures showed a small front porch, a fireplace, and a trail behind it that disappeared into the trees. It was supposed to be a dream weekend, a place to relax, hike, and catch up. We got there late Friday afternoon. Sam drove, and I kept the directions on my phone. But the further we got, the worse the signal became. By the time we pulled up to the cabin, there was no signal at all, no bars, no data. It felt like the world had dropped away. The cabin looked just like the pictures, maybe a little older. The wood was weathered, the porch sagged in one corner, and there was a strange smell in the air, like damp earth mixed with old wood smoke. Still, it was cozy enough inside. 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen, a fireplace that looked like it had seen better days. That first evening was normal, almost peaceful. Sam built a fire, and we cooked canned chili and drank a couple beers. The forest around us felt alive with the sounds of night, crickets, frogs, and the wind sighing through the trees. After dinner, we sat on the porch, talking and staring at the darkness beyond the trees. Sam was always the braver one, the one who'd hike miles off trail just for fun. Me? I liked the idea of adventure more than the reality. He joked that night that we should follow the trail behind the cabin. The next day, said it led to an old lookout tower a couple miles uphill. I agreed, half listening, but my eyes kept darting to the woods. Every now and then, I thought I saw a flicker of movement. Just shadows, I told myself. We turned in early, both exhausted from the drive. I fell asleep quickly, but at some point in the night, I woke up. It was pitch black, the kind of darkness that feels like a wall pressing in on you. The wind had died, and the woods were silent. No frogs, no crickets, nothing. I lay there, listening, feeling the stillness like a weight on my chest. Then I heard it. Footsteps outside, soft but deliberate. I held my breath, waiting, telling myself it was probably an animal. A deer, maybe, or a raccoon. But the footsteps sounded too heavy, too measured. They circled the cabin slowly, moving from one window to the next. I could hear them crunching on the gravel, then on the wooden steps. I didn't dare look. I just lay there, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. Eventually, the footsteps faded. I must have drifted off, because when I woke again, the sun was just breaking through the trees. I stumbled into the kitchen where Sam was making coffee. He looked at me like I'd seen a ghost, so I told him what I'd heard. He laughed it off, said it was probably an animal. I wanted to believe him. After breakfast, Sam insisted we hike the trail behind the cabin. He said we'd be fine. He'd marked the trailhead with bright orange ribbon on the trees, just in case. I agreed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The trail was narrow, winding through thick pines and oaks. The forest was quiet, almost too quiet, and the deeper we went, the less I could hear anything at all. No birds, no wind. It felt like the woods were holding their breath. I kept glancing at the orange ribbons Sam had tied. They were there, all right, but some of them looked different, like they'd been retied or replaced. The knots too neat, the cloth too new. I didn't say anything at first. Maybe Sam had come out earlier and redone them. But something about it felt wrong. At one point, I noticed a new marker, a red one, tied just ahead of us, pointing to a smaller side path that seemed to curve off the main trail. Sam saw it too, and paused. "Did you tie that one?" I asked. He shook his head. "Nope, that's not mine," he said, frowning. We both stared at it. I could see the confusion in his face, but he tried to laugh it off again. Said maybe someone else had used the trail before us. But deep down, I knew nobody else was supposed to be out here. We kept going, following the orange markers, but every so often, I'd see a flash of red or even white ribbon tied to a tree in the distance, almost like breadcrumbs left by someone who wanted us to follow. After about an hour, I realized something terrifying. The trail looked exactly the same as it had half an hour before. I mean, exactly the same. The same twisted tree, the same fallen log, the same patch of moss. I stopped in my tracks. "Sam," I said, my voice shaking, "I think we're going in circles." He turned around, his face pale. "No way," he said, but I could see the doubt creeping in. We decided to backtrack, but every time we tried to follow the trail back, the markers seemed to disappear. The orange ribbons were gone, replaced by the same red ones we'd seen before. My chest tightened. I felt like the forest was closing in on us. Hours passed, maybe 3, maybe 4. The sun was starting to dip behind the trees, and the shadows grew long and cold. Every now and then, I'd hear movement, sticks breaking, leaves crunching, but when I turned, there was nothing there. Sam tried to keep us calm, but even he couldn't hide the panic in his eyes. Then, as the last light was fading, I saw something ahead. A small wooden cabin. My heart leapt. Maybe we'd found our way back, but as we got closer, I felt a sick feeling in my gut. The cabin was identical to the one we'd left that morning. Same sagging porch, same smell of damp earth. It was our cabin. We ran up the steps and burst through the door, slamming it shut behind us. Sam locked it, then checked every window. Everything was the same. Our bags, our gear, the half-empty coffee pot. I felt like I was going to be sick. We were back where we started, but something wasn't right. The air felt heavy, charged with something I couldn't name. That's when I saw it. On the table by the window, a small piece of orange ribbon, neatly tied, but stained with something dark. Sam picked it up, his hands trembling. "This wasn't here before," he whispered. Then the footsteps started again, slow, deliberate, circling the cabin. My breath caught in my throat. Sam grabbed the fireplace poker, and I clutched a kitchen knife. The footsteps moved from window to window, stopping just outside each one. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel it. Like something was watching, waiting for us to open the door. I tried calling 911, but my phone was dead. Sam's phone too. We were trapped. The footsteps stopped. Silence pressed in. Then, from the darkness beyond the window, a voice. A low, guttural whisper that made my skin crawl. It said only one word. "Leave." Sam and I looked at each other, both pale as ghosts. "We have to go," he said, his voice breaking. I nodded. We grabbed our bags and eased the door open. The forest beyond was black, the trees tall and silent. We stepped outside, moving slowly, listening for any sound. Every step felt like it echoed for miles. We didn't bother with the trail. We just ran, stumbling over roots and rocks, branches tearing at our clothes. I could feel something behind us, but I didn't dare look. We ran until we saw the faint glow of the dirt road where we'd parked. Sam's truck was still there. We jumped inside, locked the doors, and he turned the key. The engine sputtered, then roared to life. We didn't speak until we'd driven miles away, the forest fading behind us. Only then did I look at Sam and ask the question that had been burning in my mind since we left the cabin. "Who do you think that was?" He didn't answer. He just stared straight ahead, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. The truth is, I don't think either of us really wanted to know. All I know is, I'll never go back to that place. I'll never trust a trail marker again. And I'll never forget the feeling of those footsteps in the night. Watching, waiting, making sure we'd never leave.